Hello and welcome back once again to thoughtbot's live streaming show, AI in Focus, where we take a look at different tools, techniques, problems, and how to apply AI tools or solutions to them. I'm your host, Chad Pytel, CEO and developer at thoughtbot. And today I'm joined by fellow thoughtbotter, Sarah Lima. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here, Chad.
We're at a slightly earlier time than usual because I am in the UK, United Kingdom right now, visiting our clients and team here in EMEA, where Sarah, you are in Portugal, right?
Yeah, living here for a year now. It's been a great adventure so far.
Yeah. So some people don't realize that we have a team of amazing developers and designers and product people here in this region, like Sarah, where we work with clients in these time zones directly rather than shifting between significant time zones and having to work asynchronously. So if you're here and you're looking for experienced developers and designers to make your product even better or to help you do something new, we're here for you. So thoughtbot's been around for a long time. We've been around since 2003 is when we started. We're actually about to celebrate our 22nd anniversary next month, at the beginning of the next month. And it's hard to believe it's been so long. It's especially hard to believe that 15 years ago, I wrote a book called Rails AntiPatterns. I had to do a little bit of a double take, Sarah, when I look back at when I actually wrote the book and realizing that it's been so long. And I've been thinking about revisiting that topic for a while. So if you're watching in the chat, it's okay if you haven't, but if you're watching in the chat and you have read Rails AntiPatterns in the past, or have they been helpful in your work, please say something in the chat, and that'd be awesome. But if you're not familiar with Rails AntiPatterns, the concept of an anti-pattern is something that is a common thing that people do in their code, which might cause more problems or might not be the best way to do things. And then ideally you're presenting the solution to those problems. And that's what Rails Anti-Patterns is. It's a book of common problems that people either have in their code or introduce in their code in Rails apps specifically. And then the solutions to those problems, the best practice solutions to those problems. So that's what we're going to do today. I was curious as I dust off this thing 15 years later and revisit some of the things in the book. What's different? What's the same as 15 years ago when Rails 3.0 was the newest version of Rails? And so I started just first, I was wondering whether the LLM knows about the book and actual contents and recommendations in the book. And spoiler alert, it does. And that's what we're going to see today. So I'm going to bring up my code now. And we have the application that we've been working on. It's a real live production Rails application. This app has been around for, I think, like 7 or 8 years now. It's an internal tool that we use at thoughtbot to manage our schedule and to be a connector between a bunch of different SaaS products that we use and integrate with. And you can see here that it's a fairly large application. There are many, many models in this application, lots of controllers. It's a pretty big application. And it's one that's a real production application. As we get started here, Sarah, have you been using Copilot or anything like that in your work?
Yes, although I didn't know about this Ask Copilot feature. I'm just learning about here as we go too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that does that mean that you've been mostly using the autocomplete?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So the way that you get to this this Copilot is clicking the little icon up here, and you can toggle the chat.
Yeah.
So there's a few different modes. There's the ask mode, which is you can ask it questions and give files as context that you're asking about. It automatically puts the files that you have loaded in your tabs up here. Then there's a edit mode, which it will make suggestions that you can then click on to apply them. And then there's the agent mode, where it will do things automatically for you. Nice. And if you've seen on prior live streams, we were using Cursor, which has similar modes. And so GitHub has recently added that full agent mode and in order to have more parity with the editor Cursor, if you've seen that. So we're going to start in ask mode now, just so that we can see that and we're not going to be actually making changes to the code.
Let's do it.
Cool. So I have one of the larger classes that we have in this application. It's called Opportunity, loaded in the editor. You can see it's a little over 500 lines of code. What it is it represents a record from our customer relationship manager to around the customers we have and the potential projects we might do with them. And so I'm just gonna have a little snippet here. So this is actually what I started off doing. I asked, are you familiar with the concepts from the book Rails AntiPatterns? If so, what are some suggestions of the principles in this book that we could apply to this class? So that's what I first typed in to see what it would give me back. So we're using Claude 3.0 Sonnet now. I think that's the default.
Interesting. I get GPT 4.0 here as the default.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so one of the nice things, so maybe that's the default. One of the nice things is you can change the model and see different how they respond differently.
Mhm.
So we can actually so yeah, we get yes, I'm familiar with Rails anti-patterns. Looking at the opportunity class, there are several anti-patterns that could be addressed based on the principles from the book. Thought model. This class is over 500 lines long and has many responsibilities. Solution: extract related functionality into modules or separate classes using concerns. Examples to extract: status related methods, one, span, active, rating matching logic, movement tracking logic, and URL generation methods. Then it also says law of Demeter violations. This class has many delegate calls which might indicate tight coupling. Solution: consider creating presenter objects or using facade patterns. And nested model pattern. The class has many associations and nested relationships. Solution: consider using composed of for value objects. Have you ever used composed of, Sarah?
I don't use it often, no.
Yeah, me neither. I'm curious. Uh, that one jumps out at me. I was curious whether all of these suggestions actually are from the book.
Yeah,
Um,
thinking the same.
so we
Maybe
do, yeah.
seems like it's an anti-pattern in general, not from the book. Composed of maybe.
Well, so we wrote the book so long ago, but it was based off of, there's another book called Anti-Patterns Best
Hmm.
Practice for Factoring or something, and that was not Rails specific. So that's where the inspiration for this came from, is being able to apply some of the principles in that book to Rails. And then there's a whole bunch of Rails specific stuff as well.
And we have somebody on the chat as well saying that they haven't heard of composed of before. So that's
Yeah.
not widely known.
Yeah. So so I'm looking. I did a quick search in the book for composed of. Um, you could move the balance logic into a composed object that represents money. Using composition in this way is so common that Rails provides the composed of method as a shortcut. So the format of composed of is, you can say, I have this attribute or these attributes, and then you can say this is old syntax. From when the book was written in, and but you can say, I want this attribute and I want it wrapped in a class money. Sorry, I want a balance method created which gives me the class money, and that money has maps to these attributes. So in this case, it's balance in cents, amounts in cents, currency. And those are pairs, so it's mapping balance in cents to amount in cents in money.
Mm.
And then you introduce a money class that gets initialized with those fields from the active record object. So this is something that and then we mention it. Yeah, so that's the only place in the book where it's mentioned. The fat model anti-pattern, law of Demeter anti-pattern, and the nested model. Yeah, the words nested model don't appear. Those other ones are actual things that are in the book, but that nested model pattern isn't really, it didn't ring a bell from something that's actually in the book. But the point about coupling and the solution, the point about associations, nested relationships, that seems, so then it actually provides an example for how to extract the movement tracking logic. So we have
And
these
can
methods.
you show us the code, maybe that
Yeah.
maps to that? Yeah, an opportunity. So how does that look like currently? Anything related to movement?
Yeah. So the way that so movement trackable is going to be a module. So it would be and then so that would be included in the opportunity class.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that um, this class has many movements, and then a callback, create initial movement, and create movements. This class doesn't have tons of callbacks, but there's these two here.
Mm-hmm.
And then these methods that use the movements, it computes the days in the current step and the movement for the current step. So every time this thing changes in our CRM in terms of moving through the process from qualification to research to closure to one,
Mm-hmm.
that gets recorded in a step column. And anytime the step column changes, we create a new movement so that we can then go back and say, how long did it take to go from one step to the other? Because each one has a created at timestamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and taking a step back, I thought it interesting that you chose that uh, anti-pattern to focus on. What do you think it has a reason? Were you interested in diving into that? The nested model pattern?
Oh, because it jumped out at me as not actually in the book.
Mm. Ah, that makes sense. Yes.
That's what I also think that in practice, not many people over the years have continued to use or use composed of.
Yeah.
I can't. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, this is a multi-thousand line Rails app and doesn't use it. I can't remember the last time I used it.
Yeah, me neither.
Josh said he's never even heard of it. Um, so yeah, I think it's not in super common practice, and I think that's one of the things where when coming across something like that, I think you need to ask yourself, well, is this just not common because it's not actually better, or that just people don't realize that it's a thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see if it gives an example for yeah no So, what do you think about the concept of moving these movement callbacks and the few methods related to um, doing, using those movements into a module? Is that something
Yeah,
that you would typically do?
I think it makes sense. I like it. It seems like something cohesive, not doesn't seem like something that would be extracting just to have code separate. I think it has some kind of cohesion. I don't know if
Mhm.
I would use the compose of anyway, but at least some just like having it as some kind of module, yeah, and using it in our class.
And we do this for other things. So we have subscription logic, the ability to do a markdown version of a description that provides like a to HTML method on your description field. We have like money with currency attributes, and then by including that module, you get a bunch of extra behavior, search, and functionality. I think I personally most often go to extracting a module when multiple classes are going to use it and it's like shared
Hmm.
behavior among multiple things.
Hmm.
I think I personally don't usually reach for extracting a module if like this is the only class that's going to use it.
Yeah.
That's not a
Or
reason not to do it. It's just
mhm.
I'm just sort of thinking about when I most often use modules, and it's when I'm looking for reuse rather than just cleanup.
Yeah, I'm thinking also if that extraction would make us would make the whole this part of the code easier to test. So do when testing the movement trackable code, would that be easier to test as a module itself, or that just like a part of the opportunity class, right? So that's something that I like to
It's just a
think
part of the
too.
opportunity class. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, seems like that's not the most valuable thing we can work on refactoring right now.
Mm-hmm.
Should we take a look at the other
The
suggestions?
Yeah, so it said extracting status related methods. So these are methods that one spam and active. Um, there's also lead. So the way that we could do this is we say, can you I'm saying, can you provide the cleanup for, or actually, let's just say the solution for extracting the status related methods. Okay, so here's how you can extract the status related methods into a separate concern following Rails anti-patterns principles. First, let's create a new concern for the status related behavior. So what that's doing is it moves the validation in there. And then, so it actually converted those methods that are like self.active is written this way
Mhm,
in the class, but when it extracted it, it refactored it into using an active record scope.
mhm.
And then active one spam. It also extracted a method for marking a record as spam.
It seems like we fell in the same cases before. This is not getting reused by anything else. So is it
Right.
worth it to extract?
Yeah, it's a good question. And this one is sort of, it is a matter of philosophy. Like, is hiding code away in a module actually making your life better? And I like how you pointed out that, like, if it's making testing easier, that could potentially do that, because if we can more easily test that module in isolation, um, then that could be good. But if we're just sort of hiding away code in a module that might be harder to find later on,
Mhm.
uh,
What do you think about
that might
asking?
be bad.
What do you think
What
about
do you
asking
think?
Copilot about that?
Yeah, how would we word that?
Um,
Oh, I just noticed, sorry, not to get distracted, but I noticed that at the end it actually says you can now test the new concern
mm,
independently. Um, Now, and what it does is it for those specs, it creates an opportunity.
mhm.
Um, and so this is what, we're just calling these methods on opportunity. Um, because the module is included in the opportunity module. You can, in theory, test it in isolation by, in your specs, creating a class that include, like on the fly, creating a
Yep.
class that includes the module. And as long as you're not doing like a bunch of stuff with active record relationships and all that kind of stuff, it sort of works. Even if you have active record relationships and everything, you could satisfy that by using mocking or something like that. But it can be a lot of work to maintain that spec as the original object changes over time.
Yeah.
I got distracted by this suggestion of being able to test it independently.
No, yeah,
So
it
we
makes
were going to
sense.
ask Copilot, but are there trade-offs to extracting code into modules?
Alrighty.
Okay, so pros of module extraction: better organization. Related code is grouped together. It's easier to find specific functionality. It follows the single responsibility principle. I think that follows. I don't know about you, but I think follows the single responsibility. I'm not sure I agree with that. Because it's just inheritance. You're just inserting additional functionality. If you were actually introducing another class, I think that's much more strongly the single responsibility principle. But
Yeah, I feel
I
like
don't know.
the
What do you think?
opportunity status class module is still really tight connected with the opportunity class.
Yeah, it's very
So
tightly
it doesn't
coupled.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work as an entity or something like that in itself.
Yeah.
So what about the cons?
The cons are hidden dependencies. Methods from modules are less obvious at the call site, can make code harder to follow in jumping between files. Oh, and then it actually gives an example of that problem. Opportunity.active. Where is this defined? Original class or
Yeah.
module?
Mm-hmm.
Namespace pollution. Modules add all their methods to the including class. It can lead to naming conflicts. Cognitive load. More files to keep track of, need to understand how modules interact, can make simple classes more complex. State management. Modules need access to instance variables, can lead to tight coupling. And here's an example from the opportunity class. So opportunity status depends on the status instance variable. So here are some suggestions for best practices to mitigate those drawbacks. Use clear naming conventions, document the module dependencies, keep modules focused and small, consider using composition instead for complex behaviors, and use private methods within modules to hide implementation details. So I'm curious, you and the people watching, when it says consider using composition instead for complex behaviors, do you know how we would what it means when it's suggesting that? It's okay if there's no.
Let's see if somebody on the chat has any ideas.
Yeah, does anybody in the chat know? We can ask Copilot, and I think it
To
will give us an
clarify.
answer. Can you give an example of how to use composition instead? Oh, it's using the ratings
Opportunity
logic.
ratings now. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask it to switch. Please, yeah, I can't help but be nice to it. Please use the status as an example instead. I misspelled example, but I think it will know what I'm asking about.
I think it's interesting, intelligent enough to realize that. All right, let's see. I'll put in a status manager.
Yeah. So where you're extracting another class and that class takes in the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
and then does things with it. So I personally, and maybe this is 15 years on from Rails AntiPatterns, find myself doing this more than extracting a module
Mm-hmm.
because, and part of the reason why is the way once, let's see if it actually, yeah. So in the opportunity, you can then say, you introduce a method. I think this is a terrible name. I wouldn't call it status
Mm-hmm.
manager,
Me neither.
but you introduce a method here and so then and all the calls you can delegate active one spam marcus spam to that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me it's much more, it solves those problems because you can then test this in isolation without instantiating an actual opportunity in your class. It's much easier to hand it a stub and or a built active record object for the specs that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And then that mock, if it changes and something's no longer defined, it's going to throw an error at you. But these are like more easier to test in isolation. And then when you have the question, where does this method come from?
You have the delegate
Yeah, yeah,
line
it's
on
much
your
more
class.
obvious to find
Mm-hmm.
it.
Do you
Um,
remember if you mentioned composition as a solution in your book?
um,
Probably, right? Like on Rails
I
AntiPatterns.
actually, um, so that we do the composed of, which is a helper for value object composite um, but or not value object for simple object, but the that composed of, if you have opportunity, so I would probably just call it opportunity status.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you could do composed of opportunity status and then give it the attribute mapping. So you could do that with this. I just think so few people actually do that and instead write that. But let's go to the book and search for composition. So my take, yeah, so it pretty much is just in relation following another pattern in Ruby module composition. Yeah, so that's just where I happen to be using that word to do modules.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's anything in Rails anti-patterns about composition over inheritance or over extracting models. I think that was something that emerged as a practice post, like as Rails matured. And I know for a fact that we have a whole section on it in Ruby Science, which is another book that thoughtbot team members and thoughtbot wrote several years after Rails anti-patterns. So you want to see whether the LLM can help us actually make this change?
Yeah, let's do it. So do we change the kind of type what we use? from ask
We can
to.
apply the changes here. But that doesn't work this doesn't quite work. So in this case, it's complete changes. In this case, it's like done a bunch of comments about things and that sort of thing. So that is the difference. I believe if we switch to edit mode, changing the chat mode will end your current edit session. Oh, that's too bad. But that makes sense because it needs to redo these things where it was like leaving comments for what we should do.
Yeah, let's do it. Just
Okay.
let's ask again to extract the
Okay.
opportunity status class.
Can you extract the status functionality into a new class using composition? Let's just say that and see what it does. And actually, well, let's stick with the model we're using just so we're consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's suggesting the same name even though we didn't tell it. It dropped the manager this time, which I would prefer. So it's going off and it's doing this thing, is introducing an opportunity status class. It updated the opportunity class to use the new, and you can click on this and it'll show you the diff of what it did. So it extracted those there. And if we go to the opportunity, so it looks like move status related scopes and methods to the new class, updated opportunity to delegate status related methods to the new class.
He hasn't
So I
changed
don't
the
see
opportunity
where it
class yet.
actually did that. No, and it says that it looks like it was. It says that it would, but both changes are just to the opportunity status.
It says here one file changed.
Yeah. We might need to, if we add opportunity to there. Okay, so it's removing, it says it's doing it now. We'll see. So what I did was I added that file
as
to
a
the
context.
Yeah. So removes the status related constants that are now in opportunity status, updates the status validation to use opportunity status statuses, delegates status related methods to instance manager, updates class methods to use opportunity status as the private status manager method for composition.
Takes a little while.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So now if we have these things here, I'm going to run. So what should happen is the specs for opportunity in theory, they should still pass, right? Because everything that existed before is being delegated now. to the status manager. So let's see if the specs still pass.
No,
Okay, they don't.
we haven't run the test before, right? To see if they were.
I ran before we started to make sure that it
Ah,
passed.
nice. Alrighty, so
Okay,
you have.
So one of the cool things is you can. So instead of running it here, you can say run the specs for the opportunity class. Oh, maybe, hold on.
Agent? Do we need to use the agent instead of the edit for that?
Yeah, I bet that's the case. I'm just gonna stop it.
He has added spec file.
Yeah. Wow, it really went off. Includes pending opportunities ready for evaluation, rateable scope method. It really went off the rails there, pun intended. And you can just click undo and it'll undo. Oh. So this is gets to one thing that I've been thinking about as we've been doing this work and in my own work as well is, you have to be really careful about spending more time than you otherwise would have just making the change yourself, especially if then it like goes off the track and you spend a lot of time getting it back on track. And so finding out the right sort of size steps to do things in seems to be really important to staying on track and not
Definitely.
having it take enough time, taking it more time in the long run.
Yeah, I think for this case so far, it's been interesting, but it has taken more time than we would manually.
Probably, yeah. So the actual failure of the spec, we were going to try changing it to agent mode. Oh, so here we can. Oh, we never clicked on. So it's still showing this as a diff. And we can choose to keep it, and then that'll sort of doesn't commit those changes in terms of Git, but it commits it in terms of the things it's worried about maintaining the change state on.
Got it.
And then we changed to edit mode, agent mode. Sorry.
Do we need to? Oh no, yes. I probably just have the opportunity file, right, as the context.
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what it would run if we just said run the specs, since there is just the opportunity file as the context.
Mm-hmm.
If
So here it found the spec. It went looking for the spec file in it. Okay, so we'll do that. So now it's running.
Do you expect that it will also identify the problems when it runs? Like, are we getting suggestions for fixing?
Yeah, that's what I expect it to do. This is taking longer than I expected. It'd be nice if you could see what it was actually doing now.
Mm-hmm. Why is it taking so long?
Right. Huh.
Do we want to stop and try again? Or maybe it's stuck somewhere? It's taking a long time.
I'm just going to add opportunity spec to the
Context, yes.
Oh, it didn't.
It didn't add.
Maintain
it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's working better than it was before. So now we see the output, and it's reading the output, and it's going to provide. So it automatically searches for where they are. It found it in. So because we changed editor modes, it did lose that context, but it was able to do the search and find that context again, which is good. So the issue is that tests are trying to use opportunity spam, one, etc., but these constants are defined in opportunity status. The test should be using opportunity status spam. Here's what we need to do. Add the constants to the opportunity class that delegate. So I actually think that this is not what we want to do. I think what we want to do is well, I think that is what we want to do, but I actually think what we want to do is move these tests from like ultimately how I would do this if I were actually making the change is I would make the tests pass, because I think that's important, in terms of like, okay, we have failing tests, we want to make them pass. Ultimately, my goal would be to move these tests to an opportunity status spec that tests in more isolation. But I would want to get these tests green, I think, before doing it.
And can you show us one example of the actual test body that's failing now? I think it may be easier to visualize what's going on.
Yeah. So like one of these, so it builds an opportunity, sets the status to opportunity pending, but that doesn't exist anymore. It's been moved into opportunity status. Here's another random one. It's status opportunity pending.
Okay, so it's clear now that the tests were not updated accordingly, but the class itself seems to have been updated, corrected, right?
Right. So it's interesting because since the application code is already correctly using opportunity status constants and delegation through status manager, it would be better to update the test to use the correct constants. Let me try running a specific test with the correct constant to verify this. And it's saying 276 has the correct constant.
Does not.
It does not. Let's see what it
What it
does.
does. Yeah.
So at this point, if I was at, we're on a stream, we're exploring what's possible with the tools and the approach. But I would say I would have bailed on this a little while ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so it ran the spec, saw that it failed, and then it says, let me fix it to use opportunity status spam. Then it actually
Mm.
did it, and now it's saying I want to run that spec again.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so that passed. Now, great, that test passed. Now let's fix all the other tests that are using opportunity constants instead of opportunity status.
So you made the change already and it's running the test.
Yep. So one of the things that I found is it did not run any specs or attempt to run any specs as part of the process until we
Mm.
asked it to. And now it's doing it. It's doing the cycle. What I found is you can sort of at the beginning, if you make a point of saying run the tests after every change, you can kick it into doing the tests from the beginning.
Mm. That's a great idea. Let's
So
try
it's going off,
mm,
and it looks to me like it's changing them one by one. Um, but to understand, so it's not entirely clear to me what problem it's having now.
yeah.
Search code base for opportunity status and spam pending pause loss one statuses 48 results. You can expand this to see the different files that it's. I'll help you run the specs for the opportunity list. First, let me find and run the relevant spec file. So it sort of like lost context and tried to start over again. Copilot has been working on this problem for a while. It can continue to iterate, or you can send a new message to refine your prompt. So it also, like shortly after I said I had lost confidence in this, it also completely lost confidence in itself. So it's too bad. I mean, we're learning where some bounds are along the way. I think it was providing reasonable suggestions guided by us, but then when we went into edit mode, we sort of lost something there.
Mhm. Seems to be like a performance issue as well, right? Like having to
Yeah.
run external commands as well as running all of the inputs, the prompts. So what
Yeah.
can we do? Can we click on continue to see how that happens, how that works?
So it's just continuing to, the continue option was continue to work on this. So let me continue fixing the remaining references to opportunity constants that should be using opportunity status instead. So it picked it back up.
Can you expand use one reference? See what's there?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it the same as the context then? No. Yeah, slightly different.
Yeah. So it is doing it. It's doing them one by one. What I can't tell is, oh, Hold on.
Trying to see if it's running the task
Right. Yeah,
every
that's a
time.
good.
Doesn't seem like it is. So that's a long time for a search and replacement.
Right, right. Okay. So now, at the risk of spending time on one thing, I sort of want to revert everything and then try again with ChatGPT 4.0.
From the
What
beginning?
do you think? Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it.
just from the extraction of the opportunity status.
Hmm. Let's do it.
Okay. Uh, okay. Oh, we had a new file. So okay, so now we have no diffs. We're going to change to 4.0. Actually, so give me an entirely new chat in agent mode.
Let's change the context to opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so what did we would do as close as possible to what we were doing before, so we can do sort of an apples to apples comparison.
Hmm.
I believe what we said was extract the status methods into a new class
Using composition.
using composition. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so it created this opportunity status. One thing I'm noting is the previous version moved like additional methods, finders, and stuff into this class. And this one didn't. The status methods have been extracted into new class. The opportunity model now delegates the spam one and active methods to this new class. So it actually, remember, it didn't do that to begin with on the other time we
Yeah.
tried.
Mhm.
Um,
So because we have less changes, I expect that
yeah.
the test will pass now.
The tests are going to still use those constants, and the constants have moved over. So I think it's going to fail in the same way, actually. I wonder if what's happening here is that there's actually. I always forget how to do this. How do you look at what other terminals there are?
Uh, yeah, here I think the oh, let's see.
That's to add a new one. So it's unfortunate it's stalled running the specs, but let's manually run them. Oh, did it change the file?
So
Oh,
in the yeah, on the other model, we had extracted some
right,
constants that we haven't extracted this time.
right, right. So the other model did that, and this one didn't do it. So those specs are still passing.
Mhm. Seems like this
So
one made a much smaller refactoring. It's just like extracting the methods, the instance methods instead of the whole logic. Well, we did
right.
ask for him to for it to extract only the methods and not the logic. So we just want to try again with just like asking to extract the logic instead of the methods.
Oh, starting over from scratch?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So it was extract the status logic, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we
It's
have
like,
any?
okay, sounds good. What are you going to do it or not?
Do we have any class
Uh,
here? No.
I wonder if, because those were open.
Okay, it was running.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we do have all of the constants now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the status logic has been successfully extracted into a new opportunity status. The opportunity model now delegates spam1 and active methods to this new class. Let's look at uh, I just noticed that they're still there up at the top.
Mm,
So I think what that means is the specs are still going to pass.
yeah. Let's ask for it to change the opportunity file as well.
Yeah, I think we need to click keep here. Okay. So then we'll say move the
Update the opportunity class accordingly. Accordingly.
the opportunity class or the specs.
We do have to remove the logic from there, so I would say the model first.
Okay. So remove the status constants from the opportunity model. So I'm curious for those folks watching the stream, have you accomplished any like either small or significant refactorings using an LLM? Has it been a useful tool for you? Is there anything that's jumped out at you as particularly a good fit? So it's applying changes to the opportunity class now. Almost done. Okay.
Okay.
So you go ahead.
Yeah, it has updated the constants here, but not the test yet, right?
Right. So if we run the specs again, yeah. So this is where so I'm going to click on keep. And then the specs fail. So this is where we sort of got off track before, where we started asking the model to update the specs. We've taken things in a little bit more of an incremental approach this time. So let's see if we can get it to work better. So we'll just run the opportunity model specs.
There is configuration to always allow, so we don't have to click it.
I don't know. There was, right? Why did it that one time show us the specs it was running? And now we can't.
Maybe because it's not running yet. It's doing something else before. Can you expand what's used as a reference? Yeah, okay. So we know what's the file already. So what's taking so long?
Right.
Be the case of stopping, try again. Shouldn't take that long. Yeah.
So now it said run command in terminal, which is that what it said before?
Yeah, that's when it works.
Right. That's when it worked.
Right. When it didn't work, it was something different. I don't remember what it was.
Error indicates that the opportunity status is constant. This is likely because the status is constant was removed from the opportunity model, but not properly added to the opportunity status class. See, it just messed that up, though, I can tell, because it got rid of all the constants. Oh, it's still using the constants over here. So this is not going to work because now it got rid of all the constants. So what we want is that. Yeah, that's what we want. Okay, now it's going crazy, wild. It is just searched for all the constants that got changed all throughout the entire app and spec suite without asking. And it's going to try to replace the constants everywhere.
Mhm.
Let's let it go and and see. Oh, I
I'm
finished.
curious.
Oh, okay. It didn't actually make changes all throughout the app. Maybe there's not a ton of references outside because those methods are fairly well encapsulated in
Mm.
the query methods. So, oh,
Oh, yeah, it's still working. So it's saying it's widely used across the code base.
mm-hmm.
Do you want to make a search to see how that's used?
Yeah. So I think it's mostly, if I had to guess, I think it's probably a lot of specs, but here are some in controllers.
Mm-hmm. It's
And that,
probably gonna
so it's in
time
a
out.
handful of controllers, but it's mostly in the specs. You think it's going to time out?
Yeah, I think so.
I switched back to the tab and then it started again.
Oops. We supposed to be more productive with that?
That wasn't the premise. The premise was to see whether it could and knew about the anti-patterns. So if you were just making this change, how would you go about just for the constant rename? What would your
Mm.
workflow be?
You mean like if I would just like use the VS Code search and replace tool to
Yeah,
make that
that's what
change
I would
throughout?
do.
Yeah.
You know what we should do is we should have two people on the stream. One who's using Copilot and making edits that way, and another person that's doing the same task,
Manually.
just whatever workflow they would normally use.
Yeah, I love that idea.
I think we need like someone controlling like and like being able to switch between both people and see what they're currently on.
Yeah. Okay. 100%.
Oh, okay. So now it's going through each of the individual classes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna take a lot of time, I think.
Yeah. So I'm curious. It stopped running the specs, by the way. I noticed that. And it went off and started doing a full rename of the whole application, but we still have failing specs just on opportunity spec, which is unfortunate.
Can you take a look at the reasons why?
Yeah. If I scroll up, I see uninitialized constant, opportunity status, unknown value.
Unknown value.
So it like the unknown value is like a string that currently it's in English, it's unknown. So it renamed, I think if we do a get diff models opportunity. opportunity, actually spec models. So you can see it went through the specs and renamed all constants over to opportunity status.
Mm.
But that's not, it should have only done statuses. And I wonder whether if we do a git diff of contact models contact, because it says it changed. Oh no, it says it didn't change contact.
It says here that it did. Okay, not the model, just the service contact.rb.
Oh, just the service?
Mm-hmm.
So freshworks contact.rb. Yeah, it really got off on this unknown value change. Voicemail. Yeah, it renamed. These are the ones we wanted it to do. But it did these others and broke. Because in opportunity status, though that's not there. Those didn't get moved over. Okay, we were on the right track for a little bit. Then we went over to the spec file and tried to get it to do the spec file again. And that is also where with GPT-4o, it just got off track with.
Yeah, so it seems like the previous command has finished.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't time out.
Right.
And it's asking to run the specs again.
Right. So we can do that. It's gonna do all those failures.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna see the unknown value. But the unknown value constant has nothing to do with the opportunity status.
Yeah.
Okay. So I felt pretty good about when it was identifying possible things to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And providing guidance for what to change. But when we went into agent mode, even though we tried to do small steps, it got off track, particularly when we went over to the spec file.
Yeah, it seems like it's more useful for just like chatting using the, but I do expect that this could be just a matter of them doing performance improvements, maybe even because we are using VS Code.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to reset this. Make sure there are no changes. Oh. Okay, so whoop. So we have a few minutes left before we wrap up. So maybe we can find something else to try. Was there something that when we were asking questions was another thing that jumped out at you, or should we ask again?
Yeah, let's ask again.
Okay. Oh, and now we're using 4.0. We can keep 4.0. I didn't put a space, but it'll fine. The opportunity class is quite large and violates several principles of clean code and Rails best practices that was outlined in Rails AntiPatterns.
Yeah,
Below are
seems
some
similar.
suggestions for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
The class is doing too much. It handles business logic, validations, associations, callbacks, and even some presentation logic. This makes it hard to maintain and test. Consider breaking into smaller components. Extract service objects. Move complex methods like update matches, update rating index, and create movements into service objects. Extract concerns. Group related methods into concerns, for example, status management, movement tracking, searchable. Reduce callbacks. This class has many callbacks, which can make the flow of code hard to understand and debug.
So if I were to
Avoid.
do that again, I think I would just use the ask mode to maybe identify. I mean, in this case, things are pretty obvious to me, but maybe for somebody new to coding or something like that that are looking to learn, that can be useful. But for um, senior developers, I don't think that there's anything new here. So I would just like jump into to fixing everything manually. What about you?
Yeah, same. I could see this using, like, if maybe you were jumping into a new application for the first time and wanted to like provide recommendations or something, just because one class is one class and we can look at that one class, but if our goal was to like review lots of different classes,
Yeah.
and say like, oh, these are things that are inherent in the application, um, then and providing recommendations, that might be interesting.
Yeah, I see.
Ooh, this one is jumping. Avoid hard coding constants. Constants like statuses, budgets, and evaluation steps are hard coded. Instead, store them in the database or configuration file. Use enums for status and stage to enforce constraints and improve readability. So this is actually a good point, and it's one thing that has changed since Rails AntiPatterns was written. First of all, I disagree with moving these constants into um, database or configuration files. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
this is great.
but enums did not exist in a working state built into Rails in Rails 3. I forget exactly the version where we got actual working enums on both MySQL and Postgres, but it wasn't until well after Rails 3. And so in the book and in the code, like we're doing a lot of things like this status stuff. And it is definitely a legitimate recommendation. Not, we wouldn't always want to do it, but that these kinds of things might be better as an enum rather than the manually sort of built enum with the string values, um,
We
and that
would
kind
get
of thing.
rid of
What do
some
you
of
think?
those methods. Yeah, we would get rid of some of those methods, right? And we wouldn't need the maybe the class overall, after all. Yeah, the active lead.
Right, right. And I think an enum also gives you this functionality for free, right?
I don't recall, but
With scopes on it. I think it might. Um, so that would definitely be a potential improvement. This one, extracting presentation logic, these team name methods, skill names, short skill names. The interesting thing is in this application, we do have an opportunity presenter, but it's used for things that are only used in like views, because you need to like know, I need to wrap this object in the presenter to give it to the view.
Mhm.
And there are times where we're like giving the team names to something that's not directly a view, like we're passing it. If we go to that
Mhm.
method, it's what this is doing is it's plucking the name of the teams to a
Mhm.
sentence, and then it's saying no assigned team.
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily like in used exclusively in just like a controller from a view. And so it ends up getting put in the model rather than the presenter, because the existing code that's using team names is using the model, not a presenter.
Mhm.
And I think that is one thing. I'm not quite sure of the direct solution to that problem. Like moving this method into the presenter and then making sure any callers are using the presenter instead.
Yeah, I'd be interested in see how that's used.
So
So,
it's used in Slack notifications.
mm, right.
And it's used in a report where it is just a string that's being returned.
Mhm.
So this actually seems like if we did we could probably change these calling sites to be using the presenter instead if we moved that method over.
Yeah, encapsulated with the presenter somehow.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
Sarah, what did we learn today?
Oh, that Copilot can be really slow when asking to edit actual things on your code base, even on a small application as ours.
Yeah,
But yeah, the ask feature can be really useful. So you have everything integrated on your workstation.
yeah. I think we also learned that it is in that agent mode, and this is something we've seen again and again on the stream. Um, quite easy for it to get away from you, and
Hmm.
then end up in a spot where you just need to go back and do it. Uh, So we have, just to wrap up, following thoughtbot since the early days of Factory Girl, which is now Factory Bot. The Code Smell book was a huge level up for me. I'm super grateful for all the work you put into the community. Thank you so much, Full Stacking. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope you know as well the other books we have, like
yeah,
anti-patterns we are talking about today, and the Ruby Science too.
Yeah, so you can go to rubyscience.com to get redirected to Ruby Science on our website. And that book is now free in HTML format on the web. So, and it has a lot of different things as well. I am actually working towards doing a revision of Rails anti-patterns. That's part of the idea behind this. And tonight I'm speaking at a Ruby group meetup in Manchester, UK, having what I expect is going to be a lively discussion, looking at things that might have changed over the 10 plus years since the book was actively created. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
And everybody, thank you for watching. Oh, there's a question. Oh, thoughts about Elixir. Sorry, we don't have time. We're wrapping up for today. um, And we live stream these kinds of things, code stuff, every Thursday. Usually it's at 11 Eastern. We're a little bit earlier today since I'm in European time zones today. But tune in on Thursdays at 11. And then also Fridays in the morning, Ferdia has been doing a really great live stream series called AI for Business. And it's more high level product strategy, different AI techniques beyond just generative AI techniques, all those kinds of things, and how they affect our products and our businesses. So if that is interesting to you, I encourage you to tune in. You can subscribe on Twitch, YouTube, and live stream. And LinkedIn to get all of our live streams. I was Ed Pytel. Thank you, Sarah, again for joining me.
Yeah. Thank you all.
And thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. And if you do have questions or comments, drop them in the chat, even if you're watching not live. We do look at them and see them. So I'll respond to you with the Elixir question in the chat after we wrap up. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.